So, you do live streaming or maybe recording of your gameplay or vlogs, or you do YouTube videos. You use OBS because it's a great software for the job and it happens to be free and open source. You've already nailed down your video quality, but how about your sound? OBS recently added VST plugin support. Now, why is that important? Because VST is the most mature and widely used audio plugin format today. The wide variety of free plugins available in the VST format is the exciting part. Another quality of VST plugins is that you can make adjustments in real time, and that is really important today. So let's dive right into it. First, we'll go to the KVR audio forums. They've been around for years and they probably have thousands of plugins available. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be using only free plugins. We'll be using an EQ, a dynamic EQ, a limiter, and an optional plugin to show you guys the endless number of different plugins available. So once you're in kvraudio.com, click on plugins, then choose your operating system, VST. We're going to go with effects and click on the free icon. First, we're looking for an EQ. Now, this is the way you can browse for all the different types of plugins available on this website. So we're looking for an EQ, and I know which EQ we're going to get. I'm just doing it this way so you guys can see how to browse. We're looking for color EQ. I'm choosing all the simplest plugins to use just to make it easier on everybody, but they are still very high quality plugins. As you can see, there are so many different options, and these are all free. And here is color EQ. We're just going to go ahead and download this. Click on download, and then it'll take you to DDMF's website. That's the developer of this plugin, and that's where we're going to download it from. Now, we can, again, do it this way by browsing different plugins, or we can just go straight to the search icon, choose your operating system, again, VST, and here we can just type in what we need. Here we're going to get Reaper's Reefer plugin. Click download and it takes you to Reaper's website, and there again we choose the appropriate plugin for your system, and then we're gonna look for a limiter. The limiter we're looking for is LoudMax. So once we are at the LoudMax page, we're gonna hit the download button and it's gonna take us to the download link and download that one too. So far we have an EQ, the Reefer, and the LoudMax. The last one we're going to download is going to be for fun and just to show you what kind of options you have. And this one is called Valhalla. It is a really fun and quality plugin. Now for this one, you have to go and sign up. You don't have to download this one really, but it is a really great plugin. So after you sign up, they'll send you an email and all that jazz. Now let's go to the installation. Now let's go ahead and install these plugins that we downloaded. First, what you need to do for 64-bit systems, go to C drive, go to Program Files, and then create a folder called VST Plugins, as seen here. After that, we're going to go to our download folder and extract the plugins. And we downloaded 4 plugins. We downloaded an EQ, a limiter, Reefer, and we downloaded the Valhalla plugin. Once you extract the plugins, only drag the 64-bit DLL files into the VST plugins folder we created in the Program Files folder. When you're installing the Reaper plugin, uncheck everything except the Reefer and double check where it's going to install it. Make sure it's Program Files /VST plugins. You want to install all the plugins into that folder because that's where OBS is going to look for these plugins. And let's go ahead and install the Valhalla. Again, it's pretty straightforward. Just pick the 64-bit VST file, and when it's installing it, double check where it's installing, Program Files, VST Plugins folder. Hit next and install, and that's it. Now you should, under the VST plugin folder, you should have 4 plugins. LoudMax 64, which is our limiter, the Color EQ, which is our EQ, Valhalla, which is our quote-unquote fun plugin, and Reaper's plugin. Now let's get into OBS. Alright, so now we are in the OBS software. We have our input from the microphone coming in. We're going to go to settings. Now the filters, you can also think of them as plugins. We're going to go to plugins. This is where we're going to add the plugins. So let's go ahead and start. So this is our EQ. What we're going to do is we're going to high pass or low cut. I'll explain that in a second. Let's go ahead and select the plugin. This is our EQ right here. Let's open it up. Here, we're not concerned with all these different bands, frequency bands. So we are concerned with low cut. We're going to go ahead and straighten this up a little bit, straighten this out. We want it to be as straight as possible without giving it a bump. And I'm going to put this, so right now we're cutting anything below whatever we set this knob to. So everything below 88 hertz is being cut. The reason we're doing that is because the lower frequencies in speech are not really necessary, especially when you consider where people listen to most of their YouTube videos or streams. It's going to be either through laptop speakers or a phone, or even if it's headphones, you really don't need those really low frequencies. The low frequencies are where most of the energy is, and we want to get rid of the extreme energy so that we can actually make our voice sound louder. Next, we're going to go ahead and add a de-esser. Now, de-esser is basically a dynamic compressor. Let's go ahead and name this de-esser. For this one, we're going to use Reaper's standalone plugin. And this one adds quite a bit of latency. In order to get rid of that, we're going to go to 128. Now the latency is much better. The mode, we're going to use it in compression. The de-essing is, if your microphone accentuates your S's a lot, they kind of stick out, you know, like S. So in order to find where that happens, the frequency range where your S's are most pronounced, just go ahead and do S. Like I said, mine peaks at around 10,000 hertz. So let's put a point past 10,000 hertz. And it goes almost as low as 5,000 hertz. So let's put another point around 6,000, and we're going to start pulling this down. Now again, we're going to exaggerate, and I don't want this to happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to flat, and let's go ahead and tune our frequency range where we want the reduction to happen. So mine was around, 6,000 to 10,000 actually. There we go. That's good. Now, this bottom line here is our threshold. When our S's go beyond our threshold line, which is right now at minus 48 dB, the compressor will kick in and push those frequencies down. But first we need to adjust the ratio. I'm going to go all the way to 100, so it's actually going to be kind of like limiting, but only certain frequencies. Now, I'm going to exaggerate so you guys can actually see what's going on. As you can see, none of the frequencies that we selected go above minus 48 dB. That way our S's are in control. Now let's get out of here and I'll show you the differences. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. See, I just muted it. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. I'm going to unmute it. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. As you can see, my S's are not sticking out anymore. So we got our S's under control. And now let's go ahead and add our first limiter. We're going to add two limiters like I explained earlier, because we don't want to just use one limiter. When you have one limiter, and if you're a really dynamic speaker or you get excited playing a game, you start screaming or whatever, it will distort. Let's get our limiter here, Loud Max 64. And I chose the simplest plugins to use. I mean, there are only two sliders. And the bottom one is really just for the output level. So set that to minus 0.5 decibel. We're done with that one. The thing to watch out for here is this slider, this meter here. This is our reduction meter. On our first limiter, we don't really want any movement on this one. So here, the first limiter really is just gonna it's like a gain plugin. And while you're clicking on your left mouse button on this upper slider, we're actually monitoring. So that way we can see the meters moving. And like I said, you want to be watching this one. While you're monitoring, go ahead and start sliding it to the left until you see movement. Oh, and then as soon as you see movement, just go up a little bit to the right with the slider until you don't see any more movement. Now let's go ahead and add our second limiter. And then another loud max 64. Now again, let's go ahead and let's put our output to minus 0.5 decibel. And the same thing here. We don't really want to see too much movement on this reduction meter. Obviously, the more movement you see here, the louder your voice will get. But also, your voice will start to distort and start to sound unnatural. We don't want that. We want to keep it natural, smooth sounding, but still loud. And like I said, you don't want this to move too much. Every once in a while, it's okay. That's what it's supposed to do anyways. But go ahead and put it to somewhere, like I said, talk dynamically while you're doing this so you can catch your loudest points. So for me, I'm going to leave it right there. Again, to monitor, go ahead and left click on this upper slider button. That way you can see if there's any movement in the reduction meter, and just adjust it, and we're done. So in OBS, regardless of your microphone, regardless of your surroundings, you can just go ahead and put a high pass filter, which is an EQ, a deesser, which is a dynamic compressor, a noise gate, and then two limiters, and instantly you're going to sound like a pro. So we're pretty much done as far as just a straight up sound like a pro session goes. 5 plugins, regardless of your microphone, you're good to go. Now, what we can do also is add a fun plugin. Now let's go ahead and do that. Now we're going to put the fun plugin on top of the limiter 2. Now you want your limiter 2 to be the very last plugin in your chain. So let's go to our fun plugin. We downloaded also. We downloaded this earlier also. Now first, I'm going to show you guys how this works straight up as a delay or echo plugin. It's super easy. Mix at 50%. Feedback, you can lower this a little bit if you like. And then just start turning the delay knob. There you go. Now if you want your echoes to be less loud, turn the mix towards 0. If you want your echoes to be louder, go towards 100. And then your echoes will be louder than your normal voice. So that's a classic echo delay plugin right here. And the feedback will dictate how many echoes you'll have. The more you put, the more delays you're going to have. But be careful. As you approach towards 100, it will start to sound distorted and it's going to start feedbacking. So be careful with this knob. Now, that was the delay portion of this plugin. Now, let's go back to... now we're going to pitch shift. Pitch shift. That's another fun thing you can do while you're
Talking. It's like
slowing
down and do all kinds of weird stuff. Oh yeah.
And then you can add a little bit of feedback to that.
And then go to tone. Go to tone.
Okay, we're done with that. Let's turn the feedback off. Now we're gonna go into the pitch shift. From output mode, let's go to mono and then start playing with the shift.
Let's start playing with the shift. And this is all happening in
Real time, as you can see, as I'm recording, or you could be streaming right now.
You could be playing with all this stuff.
And
change your voice if you like. You know, you can do all kinds of fun things. This is just one plugin. You can download many different plugins. It could take you days to go through the plugins, the free plugins that you can actually have fun with. So that's that.
That was just a little demonstration, just to give you an idea of the possibilities that you can have. But even without this, there you go, we have it. High pass filter, de-esser, limiter, noise gate, and the last limiter. See you guys next time.